You won't believe what happened to me the other day in my own backyard. Something so wild it left me stunned and honestly, a bit shaken. I was just getting ready to fire up my grill, planning a quiet afternoon barbecue, when out of nowhere, this woman, who I later learned was a real Karen, marched right up and told me to get off my property. Why? Because she wanted to use my grill for her family's barbecue. Yeah, you heard that right. She wanted me to leave my own backyard so she could have her cookout on my grill. At first, I thought maybe I had misunderstood, but her tone and attitude quickly made it clear this wasn't just about the grill. There was something deeper going on, something uncomfortable, something that went beyond just a neighborhood squabble. From the moment she showed up, her words carried a weight that made the situation feel tense and unfair. It wasn't just about sharing a grill or space. It felt like I was being pushed out, treated like I didn't belong. And honestly, that's when things got really complicated. This wasn't the kind of friendly neighborhood disagreement you might expect. It was something much more personal, and the way she spoke, the way she acted, it left a bad taste in my mouth. It made me wonder how often moments like this happen quietly behind closed doors, where people are judged or pushed away just because of who they are or where they come from. I tried to keep my cool, but it was hard not to feel hurt and frustrated. What started as a simple day of grilling and relaxing quickly turned into a confrontation that challenged everything about respect and community. But what happened next? How did I handle being told to leave my own backyard? Well, that's where things get really interesting, and I can't wait to tell you the rest of the story. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss what happened next. After that initial confrontation, I couldn't just brush it off. This woman didn't seem like someone who would back down easily, and honestly, neither was I. It felt like more than just about a grill or a backyard. There was a look in her eyes, a tone in her voice that told me this was about control, about pushing boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. I started to wonder if this was something she did often, showing up in other people's spaces and acting like she owned the place. But why me? Why my backyard? It didn't make sense, and that confusion only made the whole thing more frustrating. A little background might help you understand how this got so intense. I live in a pretty quiet neighborhood, a mix of families and individuals who mostly keep to themselves but generally get along. I've always tried to be friendly and respectful to my neighbors, so when someone acts like this, it hits harder. My backyard is my safe place, a spot where I can unwind, grill some food, and enjoy the afternoon sun. It's not just about the physical space. It's about what it represents to me. So when this woman stormed in demanding I leave, it felt like an invasion, not just of my property, but of my peace. What made it even worse was how quickly the situation escalated. Other neighbors started to take notice, and whispers began spreading about what was going on. Some seemed shocked, others unsure how to react. I could feel the eyes on me, the tension thick in the air. I wanted to keep things calm, but every word she said made it harder. There was an unspoken challenge between us, like neither of us wanted to back down. But both knew this wouldn't end without some kind of fallout. And just when I thought it couldn't get any more complicated, she pulled out something that completely caught me off guard. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The story doesn't end here, and trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. As the situation with that woman unfolded, I started to realize there was more to this than just one person's demand. The way she insisted on taking over my grill felt like a symbol of something bigger, like a struggle over space, respect, and community. It wasn't just about barbecuing anymore. It was about who gets to feel safe and welcome in their own home. I kept thinking about how often people face moments like this, being pushed out, silenced, or made to feel invisible in places that should belong to them. Neighbors began to talk, some quietly supporting me, others trying to stay neutral. One of my closest neighbors even came over to check if I was okay, sharing stories of his own run-ins with people who tried to take advantage of situations like this. It made me realize this wasn't isolated. There's a pattern in how some people behave when they think they have the right to control others' spaces, especially when race or background comes into play. That part of it hit hard because it made the whole encounter feel less like a random disagreement and more like a reflection of a deeper problem many face every day. Meanwhile, the woman kept making demands, her tone sharp and unwavering. I could see that this was no ordinary quarrel. It was like a test of wills, a power play. I tried reasoning with her, explaining that this was my property and my grill, but it felt like she wasn't interested in hearing me. The tension grew, voices raised, and a small crowd gathered, curious but uncertain. Some neighbors whispered about stepping in, others watched quietly. Not wanting to get involved, at the same time I started questioning myself. Should I escalate things or find a way to diffuse it? Was standing my ground worth the trouble it was causing? The whole ordeal was draining, but I knew giving in wasn't an option. There was too much at stake, not just for me, but for everyone who has ever been told they don't belong. But just when I thought the situation might settle, something unexpected happened. Something that changed everything and left me wondering how far this would go. The air in the backyard grew heavier with every passing minute. What started as a simple misunderstanding had spiraled into something I never expected, an intense standoff that felt like it could explode at any moment. The woman wasn't backing down, and neither was I. Her words became sharper, almost aggressive, while my frustration grew with every demand she made. People from nearby houses peeked through their windows, and a few neighbors cautiously approached. Sensing the tension, but unsure how to help without making things worse, I felt a knot in my stomach. Realizing this wasn't just about a grill anymore. It was about respect, about standing up for what's mine and refusing to be pushed out by someone who thought she had the right to do that. At the same time, I couldn't ignore the uncomfortable feeling that this confrontation was tapping into something deeper, something tied to assumptions, judgments, and maybe even unfair biases. The more I tried to stay calm and explain my side, the more I could tell she wasn't hearing me. Instead, she doubled down, trying to make me feel like an outsider in my own home, just when I thought things might reach a breaking point. The woman took a step closer, her voice dropping into a cold, almost threatening tone. She started mentioning things about the neighborhood, about who belongs and who doesn't, as if trying to claim some kind of authority over the space. That's when I realized this was no ordinary dispute. It was personal, and it felt like she wanted to make an example out of me. My heart pounded as the crowd grew, whispers turning into murmurs. Some neighbors looked sympathetic, others uncomfortable, but no one moved forward to intervene. I clenched my fists, trying to hold back my anger, knowing that any sudden move could make things worse. The grill sat there, silent in the middle of it all, an innocent object caught in the middle of this growing storm. And then, just as I was about to respond, she made a shocking demand that stopped me cold. The moment stretched, full of tension and uncertainty, leaving everyone waiting to see what would happen next. Just when I thought the situation couldn't get any more intense, she dropped a bombshell that caught me completely off guard. Out of nowhere, she pulled out her phone and started filming right in my backyard, claiming she was going to expose me for being unneighborly and hogging community resources. Her words were sharp, but it was the way she was framing the whole thing that made my skin crawl. Suddenly, this wasn't just a private conflict anymore. It was turning into a public spectacle. The thought of being recorded like that, with my neighbors watching, made the tension skyrocket. As she continued filming, she began shouting things meant to paint me in a bad light, saying I was rude and uncooperative. It was obvious she wanted to make sure her version of the story spread quickly, possibly online. to get others on her side before I even had a chance to explain. The small crowd that had gathered grew silent, eyes shifting between us, unsure what to believe. A few people pulled out their phones, and I could feel the pressure mounting like never before. This wasn't just about a grill anymore. It was about reputation, respect, and how quickly things can spiral when social media gets involved. Then came the next shock. She accused me of blocking her family's right to enjoy a barbecue because of who I am. That accusation cut deep, making it clear that this conflict wasn't just about property or neighborhood disputes, was tangled up in assumptions and prejudices. My heart raced as I realized how personal this had become, and I could see some neighbors starting to look at me differently. Unsure of what to believe amid the chaos, I knew I had to stand my ground, but the stakes had risen so high that any move I made could backfire. The grill sat there, the silent center of this storm, and I was caught between defending my space and facing a potential social nightmare. As the woman's camera kept rolling, the tension hit a boiling point. The tension reached its peak as the woman kept recording, her voice louder now, trying to rally the small crowd that had gathered. But just when it felt like things were about to spiral completely out of control, something unexpected happened. One of my neighbors stepped forward, someone who had been quiet until the Nand calmly asked to see what was going on. As the woman handed over her phone, the neighbor started watching the footage, then looked back at both of us with a steady gaze. Without a word, he pointed out that the woman had been clearly in my backyard without permission, filming me without consent and trying to stir trouble where none was necessary. Suddenly, the crowd shifted. People started to realize that maybe the story wasn't as black and white as the woman had made it seem. The woman's confident posture faltered, and for a moment, she seemed caught off guard. That's when I spoke up, keeping my voice steady but firm. I reminded everyone that my backyard is my private space, that respect and kindness should come before demands and accusations. I told them how uncomfortable it was to be told to leave my own home, especially when all I wanted was a peaceful afternoon with my grill. The neighbors nodded, some murmuring their agreement. The woman's angry tirade finally broke as she lowered her phone and stormed off, muttering under her breath. Just as I thought the ordeal was over, one last twist came. As she turned to leave, a neighbor called her out not just for her actions, but for the deeper attitudes she had shown. It turned out this wasn't her first time causing trouble in the neighborhood, and others quietly shared stories of similar encounters. The unexpected part: instead of escalating, the community began to come together more openly after that day. Conversations started about respect, boundaries, and understanding, reminding us all why a neighborhood isn't just a place, it's about people standing up for each other. But even with that, I knew the story wasn't finished yet. Sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones that change us the most, and this one was far from over. After that intense day, things slowly started to calm down in the neighborhood. The woman never returned to my backyard or made any more demands. About the grill, what surprised me most was how the incident sparked conversations among neighbors that had been missing for a long time. People began talking openly about respect, boundaries, and the importance of treating each other fairly, no matter where we come from or what we look like. It wasn't easy, and some were hesitant at first, but the experience showed us all how important it is to stand up for yourself while still keeping the door open for understanding and dialogue. I realized that sometimes conflicts like these aren't just about the surface issue, in this case, a grill or a backyard, but about deeper feelings of belonging and respect. The woman's behavior, while frustrating, helped reveal tensions that some of us had felt but hadn't talked about. It reminded me that community is about more than just living close to each other. It's about building trust and making sure everyone feels valued and safe. As for me, I kept using my backyard grill. but with a new sense of appreciation for the space I call my own. I also made a point to connect with my neighbors more, listening to their stories and sharing mine. It became clear that sometimes the hardest moments can lead to growth both personally and as a community. Looking back, that day was tough. But it was also a turning point. It showed me the power of standing firm with respect and kindness, even when faced with unfairness. And it reminded me, hopefully you, that everyone deserves to feel safe and welcome in their own home. Thanks for hearing my story. If you've ever faced something similar or want to talk about it, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you.